All right, you bastards, strap in for another deep dive. You know how every time some tin can falls out of the sky, everyone loses their shit? Like plane crashes are some rare fucking event. Happens all the time, bro.
More often than you think, yeah.
But this one, oh man, this one's got that extra layer of holy fuck because some dude filmed the whole goddamn thing on his phone.
Yeah.
Like, seriously, the whole nosedive, the flat spin, the whole 9 yards. Shit was plastered all over the internet. And just to top it off, everyone on board went bye-bye.
Yeah, that flat spin, that's not your everyday occurrence. Definitely
Yeah.
raises some eyebrow.
Damn straight. So let's cut the crap and get to the nitty-gritty. We're talking Voepass Flight 2283, August 9th, 2024. A quick little hop from Cascavel to Guarulhos in Brazil. Plane was an ATR 72500, one of those turboprops you see buzzing around everywhere. 62 souls on board, and not a single one came back to tell the tale. Plane ended up a smoking crater in some gated community. Lucky for those folks on the ground, nobody got turned into a pancake.
Imagine looking up and seeing this thing spiraling down from the sky, knowing there's nothing you can do. Talk about a bad day.
Yeah, heavy shit, man. So let's rewind a bit. Cruising along at 17,000 feet, everything hunky-dory, right? And then, bam, sudden altitude drop, followed by a brief climb before it all goes to hell in a handbasket. What the hell could cause that kind of roller coaster ride?
Well, investigation's still in its early stages, but there are a few things we need to look at. A stall, that's always a possibility. Or maybe a nasty run-in with some wind shear that can toss a plane around like a salad. Of course, could be something else entirely, who knows. We'll have to wait for the black boxes to spill the beans.
Speaking of those black boxes, thank fuck they managed to pull this out of the wreckage. Those things are like the holy grail of figuring out what the hell went wrong.
Couldn't agree more. The cockpit voice recorder and flight data recorder, those are the keys to the kingdom. They're going to tell us the real story.
So what's the word on the street so far? What juicy bits have they dug up?
CNIPA, that's Brazil's version of the NTSB, they put out a preliminary report. And get this, they're pointing the finger at ice.
Ice, you're shitting me, right? In Brazil. Last time I checked, it wasn't exactly the Arctic Circle.
Yeah, sounds crazy, right? But here's the thing, even in tropical climates, you can get icing conditions up in those higher altitudes. And guess what? This plane, it was flying right smack in the middle of that danger zone.
So you're telling me this plane basically turned into a giant ice cube and fell out of the sky? That's some brutal shit.
Not exactly a giant ice cube, but you get the picture.
Yeah.
Ice buildup can seriously fuck up the airflow over the wings. That can lead to stalls, loss of control, and, well, you know the rest.
Hold on a sec. Don't these planes have all sorts of fancy de-icing gadgets these days? It's not like we're flying around in those rickety-ass biplanes anymore.
They do, but seems like there were some gremlins in the system on this particular flight. The cockpit voice recorder, it spilled the beans. The pilots knew they had ice, and they were wrestling with that de-icing system. But it was being a real pain in the ass, turning on and off like a damn Christmas tree.
So they're dealing with ice, the plane's doing the jitterbug, and they don't even bother sending out a mayday. What the fuck were they thinking?
Good question. Unfortunately, we don't have the answer to that yet. Hopefully that cockpit voice recorder will shed some light on what was going on in their heads in those last few minutes. But for now, your guess is as good as mine.
This whole thing is a clusterfuck of epic proportions. Anything else from the investigation that made you scratch your head?
Well, this one's a real mindfuck. Turns out, air traffic control, they told the plane to hold its altitude right before the crash because of traffic. Now imagine this, a hold order, basically sending them straight into a death trap of ice.
Are you kidding me? It's like, hold on tight while we send you to your doom. That's some dark shit, man.
It definitely throws a wrench into the whole thing. Makes you wonder if air traffic control might have had a hand in this whole mess.
We're just getting started, folks, but this is already a wild ride. We need a moment to digest this shit show. We'll be back in a flash to dig deeper into the mystery that was Voepass Flight 2283. Don't touch that dial.
So yeah, this whole idea that air traffic control might have sent that plane into an ice storm, it's pretty messed up.
Talk about adding insult to injury.
Makes you wonder, are these air traffic control guys really on top of their shit when it comes to icing and stuff?
Good question. So let's take a step back for a second. I mean, what the hell is icing anyway? And how does it even happen up there in the clouds? It's not like these planes are flying through blizzards, right?
Yeah, it's not about snow. Icing happens when you've got these tiny little water droplets in the air, super cooled, below freezing, but not frozen yet. And when they hit something, like a plane wing, bam, instant ice.
But hold on. Isn't it supposed to be like freezing his balls up there for water to turn to ice on contact like that?
Not quite that cold. Usually happens between 0 and minus 20 degrees Celsius. That's where you get these super cooled droplets just waiting to fuck shit up.
Right, so we're talking freezing point and below,
Yeah.
but this flight was over Brazil. It's not exactly the South Pole, is it?
True. But here's the thing about altitude. The higher you go, the colder it gets. At 17,000 feet, where this ATR-72 was cruising, the temperature was probably well below freezing. So yeah, even in sunny Brazil, you can run into a face full of ice if you're high enough.
Sneaky little bastard.
Oh,
So we got these super cooled water droplets just itching to turn into ice, and they slam into a plane. What happens then? Does the whole thing just turn into an ice sculpture?
not quite a sculpture, but it can get pretty gnarly. The type of ice you get depends on the weather conditions. There's rime ice, it's opaque and rough, kind of like the frost you get on your car windshield. Then you've got clear ice, more transparent, denser, like a layer of frozen glaze. And sometimes you get a mix of both, which we call surprise mixed ice.
So which one of these icy assholes is the real troublemaker when it comes to messing with a plane?
They're all bad news, but clear ice, that's the real motherfucker. Sticks to those aircraft surfaces like glue, screwing up the smooth airflow you need for lift. And it's a bitch to get rid of, even with de-icing systems.
Okay, so ice is bad. Got it. But let's talk about those de-icing systems. How do those fancy gizmos work? Is it like a car wash for airplanes or something?
A bit more high-tech than a car wash, but you're on the right track. Most commercial aircraft, they've got these systems that use either hot air or special fluids to melt the ice off important parts like wings, tail, engine inlets, that kind of stuff. Some planes even have these inflatable boots on the wings and tail that physically crack the ice off.
So it's like a hairdryer and a jackhammer all rolled into one. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
But in this case, it sounds like the de-icing system decided to take a siesta at the worst possible time.
Yeah, the cockpit voice recorder data, it basically shows the de-icing system was being a real prick, turning on and off like a disco ball. It's possible the ice was building up faster than the system could handle, or maybe the damn thing just malfunctioned. Who knows? The investigation will have to dig deeper.
Talk about bad luck. So what are the chances of a de-icing system going tits up like that? Is that a common thing?
De-icing systems, they're usually pretty reliable, but like anything else, they're not perfect. It's like your car, right? You do all the maintenance, take good care of it, but sometimes shit just breaks. The investigation will have to figure out what caused this malfunction.
All right, so let's paint a picture for the folks at home. Plane runs into icing conditions, the de-icing system decides to take a nap, the pilots are probably shitting themselves, and the whole thing ends in a fiery death spiral. What a nightmare scenario.
It's a tragedy, no doubt. And it really highlights how crucial training and procedures are for dealing with icing conditions.
Right, because even with all the bells and whistles, sometimes shit goes south, and you got to rely on your skills and quick thinking to save the day.
Absolutely. Pilots, they go through rigorous training to handle all kinds of emergencies, including icing. But as we saw in this case, even the best pilots in the world can get caught in situations that are beyond their control.
This whole thing got me thinking about all those times I've been on a plane and hit turbulence. Heart jumps right into your throat, you know.
Turbulence is one thing, but imagine being up there, knowing you got ice building up on your wings and your de-icing system is playing hide and seek. That's a whole new level of, oh shit.
No kidding. It's like being trapped in a metal coffin with a leaky roof and no way to fix it.
Pretty grim analogy, but I get your point.
Okay, so we talked about icing, de-icing systems, pilot training. What else do we need to consider in this whole shit show?
One big piece of the puzzle we haven't really talked about is why the hell didn't those pilots send out a Mayday call? What were they doing in those last few minutes before the crash?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question. Were they so busy trying to fix the de-icing system that they forgot to call for help? Did they underestimate how serious the situation was? Or was there something else going on in the cockpit? Maybe a medical emergency or a communication breakdown?
Those are all good questions, and hopefully that cockpit voice recorder will have some answers. But there's a chance we'll never know for sure what was going through their minds in those last terrifying moments.
Damn, that's frustrating. It's like watching a movie with the last scene cut out. You're left with all these questions and no answers.
That's how accident investigations go sometimes. Sometimes you just can't get all the answers no matter how hard you try.
So let's recap for our listeners. We've got a plane crash in Brazil, probably caused by icing, a de-icing system that decided to take a vacation, air traffic control may be screwing up, and no Mayday call from the pilots. This is a lot to take in.
It is, and while the investigation continues, it's a good reminder that flying, despite all our fancy technology and safety procedures, it's still inherently risky.
Right, because at the end of the day, we're strapping ourselves in the metal tubes and hurling ourselves through the air at hundreds of miles per hour. It's a testament to human ingenuity and maybe the bit of stupidity that we even attempt this shit.
It's both humbling and terrifying at the same time. Reminds us that we're not immune to the forces of nature and that even in this high-tech world, things can go wrong in an instant.
All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break to refill our drinks and contemplate our own mortality. We'll be back in a flash to finish up this wild ride. Don't go anywhere. All right, so let's wrap this shit up. We've spent enough time dissecting this Voepass Flight 2283 fiasco. We've talked about everything but the elephant in the room. That terrifying flat spin everyone saw on the internet.
Yeah, that footage was like something out of a horror movie.
So for those of you who don't spend their days watching plane crash documentaries, can you explain what the hell a flat spin is and why is it so goddamn deadly? It's not just your average nosedive, right?
Nah, flat spin is a whole different animal. Basically, the plane's wings lose lift, but instead of going down like a normal spin, it starts rotating horizontally. Imagine a coin spinning flat on a table, but it's a fucking plane full of people.
Jesus, that's messed up. No wonder it's so hard to recover from.
Exactly. The usual tricks pilots use to get out of a normal spin, they don't work in a flat spin. You need some seriously specific maneuvers, and even then, it's not a guarantee, especially when you're close to the ground.
So basically, these pilots were screwed the moment that plane went into that flat spin.
Pretty much. That preliminary report said the plane went into a flat spin after a bunch of rolls and control issues. By then, they were probably too low to do anything about it.
This whole thing stinks of systematic failure.
Hmm.
We've got icing, a de-icing system that went OWAL, air traffic control maybe screwing up, and a plane that turns into a goddamn tornado. Makes you wonder if flying is even worth the risk.
I get it. After something like this, you definitely start thinking twice. But look, statistically speaking, flying is still way safer than driving. One tragedy doesn't change that.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
But it does raise some serious questions about how we can make flying even safer. What about the companies that build these planes? Don't they have a responsibility to make sure their planes can handle crazy weather like this?
Absolutely. ATR, the company that built this ATR-72, they're going to be under the microscope for a while. And it's not the first time they've had to answer for how their planes handle icing. Remember that crash back in '94, American Eagle Flight 4184? That was another one of their ATRs, and it went down because of ice, too.
Another one. Seems like they haven't figured out how to deal with ice yet.
Well, they did change some of their designs after that '94 crash, but this latest incident, it's definitely going to make people take a harder look at their de-icing systems and their pilot training programs.
Good. Someone needs to hold their feet to the fire. We can't have any more planes turning into ice cubes in the sky.
I agree, 100%. Safety has got to be the #1 priority.
Anything else we missed in this whole shit show?
Yeah.
Any other angles we should be thinking about?
One thing I think is important to remember, the human factor. We've talked a lot about the technical stuff, but let's not forget those pilots were human beings facing a terrifying situation.
It's easy to get caught up in all the technical details and forget about the people involved.
Exactly. The final report might tell us if things like fatigue, stress, or even communication problems played a part in this crash. We need to figure out what happened in that cockpit if we want to stop this kind of thing from happening again.
It's a good reminder that aviation safety isn't just about technology and rules. It's about human decisions, judgment, and, yeah, maybe even a bit of luck.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So the next time you're crammed to that middle seat, surrounded by screaming kids and stale air, maybe take a minute to appreciate the sheer complexity of flying and all the people working their asses off to keep us safe.
And maybe check the weather forecast for icing conditions before you take off.
Don't freak everyone out, man.
Yeah.
But seriously, folks, that's the deep dive on Voepass Flight 2283, a tragic reminder that shit can go wrong even in this day and age. Stay safe out there, you bastards.